Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 22nd of February, comes to you from London. And we start by looking, as always, at the dollar. Just been a bit bearish this week, below the cloud on the short-term chart, but the medium and long-term trends are still intact. So just seeing that dollar weakness showing through, and the euro against the dollar has been stronger as a result, but we still have downward pressure with this trend and downside targets. So the picture a little changed through the week. The same with the dollar yen. We're seeing the yen the dollar just looking a little bit stronger there against the sterling chart. We're seeing sterling actually jumped in the middle of the week, now flat against the dollar, and against the euro, sterling just weakening a little bit today. Against the Swiss franc, we're also a bit lower, and against the Aussie dollar, we're also just a bit lower. Bitcoin up 0.5% this morning, but fairly flat, and the long and medium term picture is a little changed. Markets were down in the US last night. We saw the S&P down a third of a percent, the Nasdaq down just under 0.4%, and the Dow down 0.4% as well. The Russell 2000 index just holding its own as well. And the futures suggest we will open a bit higher this morning. We're up 0.25% on the S&P future and a third of a percent on the Nasdaq E-mini. So it looks like we'll end the week with a relatively strong showing in the US market. The FTSE 100 index is up 0.25% this morning. Been fairly flat for the last week, not really powering ahead, but we are wandering out of the cloud into the medium-term bullish, so that is good for the market. FTSE 250 also looking a bit better this morning and coming out of that cloud as well, so we're seeing medium-term bullish there. The DAX up just under a third of a percent, and the CAC Quarante up 0.25%. We're seeing in Japan we're down 0.2%. The Hang Seng was up 2/3 of a percent, but the real performer was China, up nearly 2%. So we're seeing this recovery in Chinese stocks really starting to take hold now. We do have these downside targets hanging over us, but for the moment, this is the best performing column we've seen for a couple of years now in the Chinese market. So we look back to probably the beginning of 2017 where we saw that sort of performance. So it is looking better. And we do have an upside target activated to 6% higher, so maybe we've seen the end of the route. Hopes of trade talks helping there. Indian market is still bearish short term, but the long term and medium term charts have great upside targets. And the Aussie market was up 0.5% and looking bullish on all three time frames with upside targets on all three charts, so looking better there as well. Brent crude holding the $67 level, so looking pretty bullish. We've got upside target here to above $70, not yet activated. 67.57 was the target that was given, and we've nearly got to there. A shortage of medium and long-term targets, but we are in the seasonally strong period for Brent as well. WTI up 1/3 of a percent there. And US nat gas sitting at $2.68, just languishing at these levels, but still holding its short-term bullish trend. Long and medium term charts are bearish. Gold had a great start to the week, but we've come back quite a bit. We're sitting at 13.25. We pulled back into bearish territory on the short term chart, but the medium and long term charts are looking more and more strong. We basically are seeing resistance around this 1350 level, and we hit that level and we've fallen right back from there, but we shouldn't be surprised that gold struggles to get through that level. And if we look at silver, we're sitting at just under $16, not quite as bearish as gold on the short-term chart. US 10-year yields a little bit better at 2.68%, short-term better looking chart, and the Bund is actually falling away. So we're seeing yields just improving slightly towards the end of the week, but the bond prices themselves just falling as those yields strengthen. Taking a look at the stocks, we see here the Nasdaq. We can actually just look at the performers here. We had Alphabet down 1.5%. Apple were down 0.5%, and Amazon were actually a better performer, down only 0.16%. So we're still seeing some of these charts just struggling to get back into medium-term bullish territory. Facebook was down 1.5%, but still holding its medium-term bullish stance. And if we look at some of the other bellwethers, we had Microsoft. They were actually up 2%, so they are bucking the trend, looking pretty good there, it must be said. And if we look at Netflix, they were down just under 1%. And last of all, a look at Tesla. They were down 3.7%, so they're really underperforming now. Having looked pretty good for the last quarter last year, they're really coming all the way back. So Tesla looking more bearish with downside targets on a bit of a knife edge here on long-term support as well. Taking a look at the Aussie market, best performances. Invocare were up 12%, not enough to really change the long-term chart, but the powering ahead on that medium-term turnaround. Automotive Holdings Group up 8%, again just starting to look like they might recover on that medium-term cloud. And PAP Group Holdings up 8%, but not enough to change the picture there. On the downside, we've got Saracen Mineral Holdings and Main Pharma Group, so we're seeing that also. China, we saw, was very strong, so we had quite a few big performances here. China Galaxy up 10%, Hento Securities up 10%. A lot of these financials up. Zhenzhen Securities up 10%, and CRT Securities up 10%. So these stocks all really moving higher. The recovery in Chinese shares driving those financials. Looking at the Indian market, Indian oil up 4%, not enough to really change the picture here. The petroleum stocks, though, in India doing pretty well. Hindustan Petroleum looking better there. Yes Bank has been in the leaders and laggards quite a lot, but just starting to wander out of the cloud here, so looking quite good. Vedanta, again, often in the leaders or laggards board, again, just not enough to change the picture there. On the downside in India, we've got Contact Mahindra down 3.8%, so some quite big falls. And here we see the live pricing coming through from Yahoo Finance. Taking a look at UK stocks this morning, FTSE 100 Melrose up 2.9%, Everaz actually up 2.8%. They're bullish, looking quite good here. A lot of the resource stocks, Glencore up 2%, Fresno up 2%. A lot of them not changing the picture though. BHP Group pushing higher there. Rio Tinto. Interestingly, nearly all these top performers are in that camp of resource stocks. And here we see Rio Tinto looking to nudge to make new highs. So that's looking pretty good with a lot of upside targets. Taking a look at the downside, the stocks performing worse. We've got Centrica still hit further. Barclays down. Centrica looking very grim on the chart, making new multi-year lows here, so we're seeing that. GlaxoSmithKline down 1%, so we are seeing still some stocks struggling. Taking a look at the 250, we've got Daily Crest up 12%, Dairy Crest up 12%, a really massive rise there. Nvidia up 5% and Metro Bank up 5%, not enough to really change the picture there. Taking a look at the downside, we've got CYBG down 6%, really have had massive falls, and that's just hitting the stock there. Plus 500 group also being hit. Taking a look at the European stocks, we see here on the leaderboard we've got Sopra Group in France. They're up 14% this morning. Not enough quite to get it through on the cloud on the lagging line, but we are looking a little bit better there. And if we look at the downside, we've got CYBG down 6% as well. So that's it for today. Until Monday, happy charting. See you then.